Welcome back to GBS Morning Extra. If you are just joining us, it is the 4th day of the month of February 2020. We are really glad that you are here with us now. As I mentioned earlier on, today we are going to discuss the safety of our children in school and, taking into account the tragedy that took place yesterday in Kakamega. About 14 children. The number is not, by now is not really clearly confirmed, but up to now, 14 are confirmed dead. That's about 9 girls and 5 boys. And also, they say that 2 are in critical condition in the intensive care unit. About 40 were injured, and another 20 treated and discharged. So these numbers may keep increasing, but then we will be keeping you updated on that. And, when the tragedy happened in Ngong Road, we had this discussion with my panelists in the studio, and I'm really glad that one of them is back to discuss this with me this morning. Karibu sana, Rachel. Rachel, the incident that happened yesterday, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but after the tragedy at the Precious Talents on Ngong Road, the ministry moved to go to schools and to check, issues to do with safety, to ensure that safety measures are put in place for our children to be safe in school.
Yes.
And they really moved well for a couple of, I think, weeks.
Yes.
But then after that, everything, went quiet as always. And now, again, we have another tragedy.
Yes.
First and foremost, we would like to, pay our deep and sincere condolences to the families of the children who lost their lives. And not even one life can be measured, and it's all precious. And we really sympathize and do send our heartfelt condolences with the families. Rachel, what is your take on this incident that happened in Kakamega yesterday?
First of all, it's traumatic, both for the students, the parents, and the whole town as a whole. It's not easy. Yeah. I know many people have not slept, trying to come to terms with the whole situation as it is. Yes. Of course, for some parents, it's still like a dream not come true. Mm-hmm. For the students who are there, seeing their colleagues pass on, that is not very easy.
So traumatic.
The trauma is a bit bigger than you can imagine. Mm-hmm. Then again, considering security matters and the number of students they are saying who are present, I think they should have come up with a better way of managing the traffic. Because now, considering the Ngong Road situation, now that was a school. Now here we are looking at traffic. This is a reaction of traffic. If the students are as many as they are said to be, they're saying about 300, then definitely common sense should have dictated we manage the traffic out of the classes and into the classes.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's quite tragic because looking at the whole situation, when I went to school, I went to school in many places, but yes, one of the places that I went to school, especially primary school, and if you look at those old model way of building schools,
yes,
if they were a story building,
yes,
it was only one story building.
Yes.
But today we have 3, 4 story buildings.
Yes.
How safe is that? And especially when you look at the design or the architecture of the buildings, and especially the one that we witnessed yesterday, yes, this building is strong from, when you look at it from the face, but then the balcony is so narrow. So yes, even the person building that, house or constructing that building, if you are to put into consideration that an emergency may occur and these are children and they would want to dash out of class, it's
yes,
so tragic.
True.
Hence, I think what we had from some eyewitnesses that, kids are falling off the balcony, you know, from the third story?
I think the onset, okay, the idea of building stories is okay because we are trying to manage the space that we have, but then security is a bit compromised because our schools, you know, the way they were, the windows were so big, and then they didn't have grills. So in a way, you'd use the windows as exits. Now, when there are stories and you're going up to third floor, definitely you can't use a window as an exit. Then the path which they are using is very narrow.
The balconies
are so narrow. And then these are stone buildings, so even if you don't want to take a risk, you can. The mathematics does not come around very well. So even the person who constructed or even drew the school, the architecture, didn't put into consideration matter safety when it comes to school. And you know, children are children. They will decide to be naughty, and I remember we'd be naughty and decide to use the exits of the windows, and nobody was ever injured. But now it's a story building, especially second floor, third floor, it's a no-go zone. So something that needed to be thought about in terms of the exit. So the government may not be able to do everything. But then again, we as parents who take our children to schools, shouldn't we also consider taking some of these matters more serious?
Before tragedy.
Before tragedy happens. Must we always wait for something to happen for us to react or to take an action? I mean, it's not nice.
And it's really surprising. You know, I had one of the interviews that the CS Magoha had last night with one of the media houses.
Yes.
And himself lamented and said he was in that school a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And, you know, the children came out in an orderly manner, those according to his own words. But then I think as Kenyans, as a society, we need to wake up to some of these realities.
Yes.
And think of, if we are to build, or if we are to build schools, no matter how tall the story is, shouldn't we consider having the balconies from inside the school, and not open in a way that, you know, someone can jump? Let's have, you know, stairs, and let's have all the floors sealed, such that someone cannot jump or even fall off. The balconies be from within and not outside. Because when you look at it, it looks normal. It looks normal because, you know, at our residential places, the apartments, the balconies are, you know, from the outside. But then this is a school where kids are. And putting into mind that there could be an emergency where these kids would maybe rush out of class, or there could be a fire outbreak. You know, you never know. It's quite unfortunate. But then let's talk about, you know, the trauma that the kids who witnessed their colleagues, you know, dying, and it was quite scary. Very
scary. I don't think, there are some who never go back to that school, by the way. There are also parents who never be able to take their children back to school, because every human being reacts to trauma differently. And it's not easy to be with somebody in class, and then the next minute you see them lying there motionless. The two pictures don't add up. And then there's also another reality, like, what is happening to us? What is happening to our society? So the trauma is much more bigger. I hope they are considering having sessions, therapeutic sessions, both for the students and for the parents, and also for the teachers. Because this is an old school, it's been running for a while, something like this has never happened. Then suddenly, and maybe if you even look deeper, you'll find it was just something that was not meant for bad, that ended up having such a negative impact. It may be because, you know, a stampede is created by panic or fear that makes people run out in a rush. So it may not have been a big deal, but now it has ended up being tragic.
But then even if you listen to the details, it's after a bell rang. You know, it was 5 p.m. And all right, people sometimes want to read so much into situations, but then from what we've gathered on the ground, there are unconfirmed stories that the incident happened around 5 p.m. And according to the normal school timings, then lessons ideally in primary schools should end at around between 3:45 and 4 p.m. But then this is 5, so it means that there was an extension of class. And this is something that, I mean, the government time and again has spoken about. I mean, you know, extra time after class and so on and so forth. what measures should be taken in terms of ensuring that some of these simple rules are adhered to?
Now, before even we get there, let's give it a graphical picture so to analyze it. So these students are in class up to 5,
yes.
meaning the lesson ended at, say, 3:45 or 4.
Yes.
Now, they had lunch at 1, between 12:45 to 1:45. Then they gone to class for 3 lessons or 4 lessons up to around 3:45 to 4. Then the teacher decides, let's do a bit of an extension up to 5. So the levels of sugar, the glucose levels in the brains have already reduced because the last meal was between 12:45 and 1:45. They've been in class, they've been using the brain. So at around 4, there's already a drain. Then now there's an extension of 1 hour. Definitely the sugar levels are so low. Now this 1 hour extension, be it what or what, when you're told it's time to leave, we will all wake up and we want to run out because not everybody had something to eat at 4.
Sure.
So we are all very hungry. So assume the way we used to behave, hunger drives students. There's this drive with hunger. So assume the bell was a trigger, it's time to run home, go and eat. Others, considering it's a public school, it's a distance. So you all want to run out and run home before it is too late. So when you put all these factors on board, definitely the risks were much more than what you're looking at. But then the measures of the extra remedial classes, we understand the pressure. Now, you know the 100% transition? The pressure now has gone back to the public schools because when you look at the records of what has been happening, when the students are not being able to raise the money as the parents have tried to get the bursaries and all the help, and it's not possible. Now these students are desperately going back to the school principals. So they go back to the principal of the school where they were learning. Now it has become a responsibility of the primary school principals to get these students places to go to school. So what does that principal do? They'll look at the grade of this child, look at the possibilities of getting them to a school. Now the guilt hits this principal. So what does the principal do? Sit down with the teachers. We really need to pull up our socks because when these children come back to us and their grades are not very good, how are we going to have the 100% transition? So there's also the pressure of the 100% transition back to the public primary schools.
So many factors building up to that.
Yes.
I want us to take a very quick break and then when we come back, I would like us to discuss more about that and then maybe just try and look into what possible measures should be put in place. I mean, yes, we've been talking about solutions and suggestions and all these things, but then we can't stop talking about that. I think someone needs to say it until it happens. So, viewer, if you're just joining us, you're watching GBS Morning Extra. We're going to take a short break right now. My guest today is Rachel Gitu. She's a counseling psychologist, she's a life coach, she's so many things. And today, actually, we are discussing about the safety of our children in schools. Let's now take a short break, and before we take a short break, and as you can see on the screen there, there is this news that is breaking now of the former head of state, Daniel Teacher Arap Moi. We are being informed that he has passed on. The Daniel Teacher Arap Moi, the second president of the Republic of Kenya. There is this news that he has passed on. We take a short break now. When we come back, we are going to give you more on that as we continue with our discussion. And welcome back. Right before the break, we mentioned the breaking news. The former president, it is now confirmed that the former president, Daniel Teacher Arap Moi, has passed on. More details on that are yet to be released, but the announcement came from that was made by President Uhuru Kenyatta this morning, and a statement. The State House has actually confirmed that it will give a more detailed statement on the passing of the former head of state. The President Moi ruled Kenya for quite a while, 24 years, and he is a man that has many. There's a lot to speak about President Moi, but for now, as things stand, it is confirmed that the former president, Daniel Teacher Arap Moi, has passed on. We'll bring you more on that story as we get more information. Now, back to the story that we were discussing this morning. There we have a picture of the former president, Daniel Teacher Arap Moi, who passed on an announcement having been made this morning by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who promised to give a more comprehensive statement on the passing of the former head of state. We condone with the family of the second president of the Republic of Kenya, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. Yeah, may his soul rest in peace. And the retired president had actually been in and out of hospital since he underwent a knee surgery back in 2006 when he was involved in an accident, and later flown to Israel, where he was accompanied by his doctor, Mr. Silverstone, and also together with his son Gideon Moi, who took him to Israel for a surgery. And since then, the former head of state has been in and out of hospital. There has been rumors of his passing, which were dispelled time and again by the family, but now it is actually indeed confirmed that the former president has passed on. We will bring you more on that story. Moving on, the story that we have been discussing this morning with my guest in studio, the passing of 14 pupils from the Kakamega Primary School after a stampede occurred yesterday evening at around 5 p.m. when the bell ending the class sessions rang in school, and quite a number, 14 dead. That's about 9 girls and 5 boys included. 2 are still said to be in the intensive care unit, ICU, and quite a number of them were treated and released to go home. Others are still nursing serious injuries in hospital. And the Principal Secretary for Education, Belio Kipsang, went to Kakamega last night, and Dr. Magoha, Professor Magoha, actually issued a statement and spoke to media houses, informing them that he will be going to Kakamega today, probably to assess the situation and also to give, to share with the country more information on what transpired. Also, we had the Kakamega Central OCPD, David Kabena, who confirmed the incident and also confirmed the number of children pupils who were injured. He placed the numbers as 40 who were injured, and 20 were treated and discharged. More than 100 children were involved in the stampede, and that includes the casualties that we had. That's 14. Now, in studio, we are discussing this matter with my guest, Rachel Gitu. Rachel, right before the break, we were looking at, some of the incidences or the circumstances that came before this, and you are just analyzing to us the situation, because when such a thing happens, people just think of the incident. Yes. People don't really try to analyze the situation and think of, what could have caused this and why so many casualties. And it's just a bell rang. Probably they leave school at the same time every day of their week, but then why yesterday, and what could be some of the causes? And you're just trying to analyze this to us, and the long periods. It's known that class sessions end between 3:45 and 4 p.m. depending on how the classes operate, but then the classes ending at 5, still having so many children in school, means that there was an extension of class time. And you are just trying to explain to us, as we were taking the break, some of the possibilities or the dangers that come with that elongated time in class, and the exhaustion of the children. They had lunch at around between 12:30 and 1:45, and now everybody is rushing home. Yes. I remember when we were kids, that bell was actually a cue, and for those who had watches, they were on their marks.
Actually, do you remember we used to have our bags packed?
Ready.
waiting for the bell. And the bell rings, and we don't even notice the teacher is in class. We are all headed for the door. So assume, look at a situation whereby we are having a whole stream of about 4 or 5 classes. Each has about 60 to 80 students, and we are all waiting for this bell. One, we are hungry, because the last time we ate was 1:45, and it was not much. And we've been in class. We've been in class from 2. Now here we are. We had an extension because we have a lot to cover for the syllabus. In class 5, we don't even understand where we have to cover for the syllabus. So this 1 hour is already boring for us. So our bags are packed, waiting for the bell. So the bell rings, we will even drop the teacher down as we run out. Now it's 60 to 80 students. Everybody stands up at once with their bag, headed for the door. What do you expect? And then the exit is just 1 door. And then the path, the balcony path, is very narrow. So what do you expect? The best of us who still remember how we used to jump trees, we used to climb trees and jump, we will think we can also try the same here and show our muscle of expertise. So before we read into the negative things, we also look at it from a student point of view. Just the way we used to behave, it's still the same way they behave. These are children. Children will always be children. So I think it's a matter of looking at the reality of things. Yes.
And something we mentioned earlier, which I would also like us to, look into again. The story, the building was a 3-story. Was 3-story.
Yes.
I mean, quite scary, because taking into consideration the scenario, that the picture that you just painted, of kids waiting for the bell and dashing for the door, and it's not one stream; it's quite a number of streams or classes in every floor. You can imagine the number of kids on that balcony, and
we all meet there. The 300 of us. What do you expect?
The stairs is probably very narrow.
It's very narrow, and of course, those ones who are ahead, we who are at the back, because of the pressure, we are sleeping on each other now, because you're all running out. So the pressure is too much. So it's possible to fall on each other. Very possible. Because we've all come out together, everybody was standing, and maybe the teacher was not even aware. So everybody is holding their bag. So we all stand up at the same time. The next class and the next class. We all meet at a narrow stairway. The people in front cannot contain our speed. So we all run and fall over each other. And that's the stampede.
And it's quite unfortunate, quite sad. I mean, if you look at the pictures and if you listen to the cries of the mothers, and even some who are not, parents to the deceased children, but then it felt so painful. You can imagine what pain those children, felt. And most of them also, from the reports, you realize that some of them actually were out of breath. Because of the stampede and other students, lying on top of each other. It was quite, quite tragic.
Because for a stampede, maybe the ones who were in front just tripped over stairs and then they fell. Remember, they are low on sugar. And another one is considering the distance where they'll have to walk back home. And now it's 5 and there's still some chores to do at home. So all these calculations are in their mind. So everybody's in a hurry. So somebody tripped over a stair and they just fell. And another one came and tripped over them. And then we all ran on top of them. That is already very horrific. It's like a horror movie. So even that, getting it out of their minds. But then look at the parent. This parent took a child to school. Or they parted ways in the morning, tukutane jioni. So the children have gone to school, and then the child is not coming home. You're being called. Come to school, something has happened. So you can imagine even the minds, the shock, the wailing and the trauma. Remember, here we are having children who are firstborns. Others are only kids. Some of them They are the only hope in the family. Some are last born.
So
some
the
are
emotional attachment.
Some of them are only children. I mean, if you look at it in the bigger picture, the aspect is so huge.
So tragic.
Then this is the future. Some of them, their parents had put so much hope in them. This is my future. Maybe the others didn't do very well in school. This is the only hope I have. And then now you're calling me to tell me, come and witness. And then I come and find my child lifeless because they fell over. I don't, no matter what you try and explain, it will not make sense.
It will not make sense.
No.
And, you know, at a time like this, Rachel, it is also very easy to shift blame.
Yes.
And that's one of my greatest fears. You know, it's a tragedy. It did happen. But then, personally, I feel that the teachers, before investigations are done, the teachers needs to be protected. Yes,
because one, remember our teachers are not motivated. Our teachers are not motivated at all. Even from the way they carry themselves, you'll know that, you'll tell the teachers are not motivated. Then now with 100% transition, the pressure directly goes back to the teachers. Because, you know, the way it is being presented, or the way as parents we are interpreting it, is now the children belong to the government. So they are government property, so the government is taking responsibility, and then the teacher is also paid by the government. So, and any teacher who is not doing what they're supposed to do, the government will consider them. So now parents tend to take a back seat. So now the pressure lies on the student, on the teachers.
So the teachers are on the steering wheel.
They're on the steering wheel. They are not motivated. The pressure is so much. The 100% transition has so much pressure on them. Then also, I want us to think like human beings, because I like putting a neutral aspect to everything. Yeah. Back then, even though our parents were not very wealthy and they were not very well, most of us came up from very humble backgrounds. But I remember our parents were concerned about the schools. They never took it for granted. We always had a group in the school that had the parents teachers board. So these parents would come at random and survey the school, look at the fences, look at the dining hall. We no longer do those. We have left everything to the government. The government can't do this.
Parents' Day.
It's not possible.
Some of us don't even go.
You remember, like back then, we would supply food for school fees. So in the process of taking the maize, it has to be taken to the accounts office and then taken to the kitchen where there's a store. They will go scrutinizing the environment of the school.
Because they were the ones to bring.
They were the ones who are bringing the food. Now parents, they hardly go to school. So most of us don't even know what happens in these schools. And you know, a school is not for the government. It's community. We need to own the schools as parents, as the community. Where are the schools that were built by the community? They are not there. The government can't do everything. So even on our side as parents, we really are failing. Like the schools with many students, the teachers sit down and the parents sit down and say, you know what, we accept. We have many pupils and they need to cross the road. So can we organize and get somebody who will be paying them to ensure our students cross the road on a safe mode? That is not the work of the school. It's not the work of the government. It's our responsibility as parents to ensure our students cross the road safely. But now when we leave everything to the government can't do everything.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't. We really need to wake up.
You know, when you look at it extensively, Rachel, you realize that, you know, looking at the kind of setup that we have today in our society.
Yes.
Watu wako busy.
Okay, sikatai tuko busy, but then look at it like this. Okay, the busy is okay. I'm not disputing the busy because we really have to work hard to put food on the table. But then let's use a bit of common sense. I cannot be so busy and then when my child is through school, I still can't raise money to take that child to school, even if it's a day school. So the professor have to come fishing our children out of home, and we are claiming we are busy. So
right now he's looking for another like 300 and something thousand who have not actually gone to school.
But are you imagining the situation whereby now a professor has to come fishing the children? Meaning I'm comfortable staying with my child at home and I'm feeling nothing. Don't you think we've become
There's a problem with the thinking.
Our thinking has really changed.
There's a problem with the thinking.
How much do we love our children? Back to that. How much do we love our children? Because I'm looking at it, if I cannot afford a school, an expensive school, we still have the government sub-county schools. But how much do I love my child? How comfortable am I with my child being at home, not going to school, and the others are going to school, and I am okay with it, and I go about with my day-to-day lives? Our parents wouldn't allow us.
Rachel,
we'll be beaten in the morning.
Is it high time that, you know, as a society, we have a really serious conversation about this, and parents, if I may say, parents to be more concerned about the environment in school?
Yes.
Than just the fact that, okay, I bought the uniform, I bought the books, if somewhere they buy the books, you know, I've provided food for my kid,
yes.
I've provided a shelter for them, so
yes.
they are able to go to school in the evening and come back to home in the, you know, school in the morning and come back in the evening.
Yes.
I've organized transport for them,
yes.
and so on and so forth. Is it also now a time for us to start talking about the having the conversation about the school environment?
Yes.
Because I think when you look at these tragedies, most of them are taking place within our schools. Whether it is the collapsed buildings,
yes.
whether it is now the stampedes that we're experiencing,
yes.
whether it is the scare. The reason, just the other day, there was a scare
yes.
in a dormitory
yes.
where girls actually were rushing out of class because, you know, of electricity and so on and so forth, and some were really injured.
Yes.
I mean, isn't it time that parents be more concerned? Because if we leave all this to the government, I think Magoha cannot go
everywhere,
all over the country.
No, it's not possible. We need to wake up as parents.
Are we failing as parents?
Yes, we are. I can comfortably say we are failing, because we are all hiding in the busy. We are all very busy, and I agree, we are very busy working hard and looking for money to make ends meet. I don't dispute, yes, economic times are hard,
yeah.
But we are working for these same children who we are not concerned about their safety. So it does not make sense that I wake up early in the morning, or you wake up very early in the morning, you are so up in the morning, running up and down, looking for this money so that you put food on the table. For which children? And I don't care where they are. It doesn't make sense. We really have to, like, find a place and divide ourselves and be responsible enough. I'm sure you can create a few minutes, or come up with a committee of people who will be flexible. Do the checks in. Like, I remember in school, we would have open days. So open days, parents would come and scout the school.
Yes.
We no longer do those. Open days are for, we come and check how our children are performing. We no longer go around scouting the schools. We also had random parents who'd just walk in and check the classes.
Those board members.
The board members would also walk in and just check the surrounding of the school. So at times we'd be called out, hey, who are doing the duties for the toilets? You need to go and wash again. We're having some visitors. And then those days, even the Ministry of Education was also a bit more on the ground. So visitors would randomly coming from the ministry, and they inspect the schools. That no longer happens. So now the school is left to the students and to the teachers to manage themselves. Now there's the pressure of the targets, because we need to have good grades because of the 100% transition. So some of these nitty-gritties are being ignored. Okay, sorry, they've been forgotten. Because now we are concentrating on the targets. So we need to come up with a bit of more sensitivity. Ask myself, I'm so busy looking for money. Like now, for example, sorry to use this as an example. There are some parents who went to work very early yesterday morning, and they were sure they're going to work to come and put a meal on the table. But now, before you bring that meal, or you are carrying the meal home, you are called to school. That child you are coming to buy food for is not there. How do I deal? How do I come to terms with it? How do I forgive myself? Why didn't I take care? Why wasn't I much more concerned? Those are the things that run in the mind of a parent.
Doesn't that cause parents then to fall into some kind of a trauma? I mean,
yes,
self-blame and...
Yes, a lot of self-blame. And of course now we are going to have a lot of blame games and finger-pointing and who did and who didn't do. But if we accept to take it like a responsibility and look at myself like, I'm also concerned. I have my part to play. Everybody has their part to play. We will not be able to blame each other. We'll tell each other. We need to be more careful. We need to be more sensitive to the school environment.
I don't know well about this, but then still, Rachel, I have this strong conviction, this is a personal opinion, that we should rethink about, you know, yes, Kakamega Primary School is a very good school.
Yes.
It's one of the best performing in the region.
True.
It's been around for a while.
Yes.
But, I mean, looking at the construction or looking at the building,
yes,
to me it's more of an apartment.
Yes.
That would hold roughly, not the number that it holds.
Yes.
And, you know, considering the number of kids occupying the classes, then one would also want to think about the traffic on the corridors.
Yes.
And, I mean, still, I think something needs to be done. And I'm sorry, but even if the government has to decide that, okay, if we are going to make story buildings, then these are the measures. They should have some kind of standard measure of construction, especially for government schools.
But I think there's already a set, there's a way schools are supposed to be built, the architectural plan. Because even when you go to, if you want to put up a school, this is what you're supposed to come up with, the structure of a school, considering the exits. So how we ended up with a school without exits is somebody somewhere should give us an answer. Yes, because that should not happen. But then again, even the huge traffic, why would I be so comfortable in a class? We are so many of us. Why can't we collectively tell ourselves, can we add classes? I remember our days when the students were more than 44, our parents would agree. We would be going there every Saturday to Najenga. Where did that go to? I mean, okay, we are busy, we are making money. Then can we give the money so that the schools are built? Because the schools, even in old days, the schools were never built by the government. The schools were built by parents, by the community. I remember those days, the old wazers would say, I have many children, na nataka watoto wangu wasome. So mimi nimepeana kaploti pale kujengwe shule. So when he gives the space for the school to be built, now the community comes and says, we've been given a place we can build the school. Who can bring what? Who can do what? Can we bring in our labor? In the process, our parents would bond because they have built the school. So then they own the school. So now the school is owned by the community.
By the community.
Yes.
Church institutions also used to build schools. Religious institutions used to build schools.
And also hospitals.
And then run them for some time and later hand them over to the government for running. And I think that is something that if we can apply now, then I think people can be more concerned about the environment and the architectural design and what kind of an environment that they are placing the children.
You see, like if you look at some schools, you find even the latrines are about to fall backwards, meaning somebody is not sensitive about those toilets which can easily fall backwards. Those are things which will not happen because the people who build are the parents. So we are putting in all our energies considering it is our children. Shule, sindio. And our grandchildren will still come to the same school. So we'll put in a lot of sensitivity into it because these are our children. Now then, the schools were community-based. Now we've left it to the government. The government cannot build enough schools for 1 million+ students. It's not possible. We really have to come back to...
I think it's an issue that the CS, Professor Magoha, brought up when the tragedy happened at the Precious Talent.
Yes.
He said, hey, look, build more schools. Build more schools. He called for communities to build more schools. Like in the instance that we had at the Precious Talent. I mean, Ngando is a big word, but it only has one primary school.
Yes, yes.
I mean, looking at the condition of the school also, it wasn't so good. I mean, you could understand that it's one school. They're trying to do construction at the same time.
Yes.
They cannot stop learning.
Yes.
So one would want to excuse them, but this is not a reason, you know, for having such a facility, because then if they were to do proper construction, then it means some students would either study under the tree or not come to school completely. But involvement of parents, I mean, the cooperation between parents and teachers.
Yes.
I think this is where we are failing as a society.
Yes, we have folded our hands. We've left everything to the teachers and to the government, which is not possible. So like when the CS was talking about to build more schools, and then it went back and looked at it like politicians build more schools. Yeah. I'm looking at him, I'm giving him a graphical picture. Based on the times he was a student, he found he went to school at a time where it was collective. Yes. The community was coming on board. We build a school. We are building this class. So when are we building this particular day? All the parents come to school and they collectively build a classroom. So when he's talking about, it's not an insult. He's talking from experience. Because most of the schools back then, even the ones which are doing very well today, if you look at their history, they were built by the community, and the location was land that was donated by somebody. I donate this land, ijengwe shule. I donate this land, ijengwe hospitali. So you'd find a school and a hospital, they are so close together, and then it's near a marketplace. So you think it's not a coincidence. So you find, say, like this school, there's a hospital, the same name, and then they're the same place. It is somebody who donated their piece of land to build a school for our children and a hospital for the community. Then they give it back to the government. So when he says, let us build schools, he's not making a mistake. It is our responsibility as the community to build schools.
And this also partly, I'll also extend this also to the leadership, because we cannot also leave the leadership out of this. We know that the CDF money goes in part to take care of such.
Yes.
But then even as this, you go find very nice classrooms, branded, this was built by the nowadays it's national government CDF fund.
Yes.
As we do this, as the leaders also contribute money for building of schools and so on and so forth.
Yes.
It's only my wish, and these are just an expression, that they also need to be more considerate of what they're building.
True.
To just build for the sake of building, because looking at the Kakamega Primary School, yes, it's a beautiful building, but is it really the best environment for a school, and especially a school with small children?
There are a lot of things which were not considered. So that's how now the drawing, when the architecture is drawing, how many parents are on board? Because not every architecture is a parent. Again, you're also looking at it like for architecture, it's money. So they are putting in, I'm drawing because it is money. How much consideration is put when it is being put into place on paper first?
And the school board
and the school board of governors and the parents. Where were all these people when something like this is decided? Whereby this is a school. It is not an apartment for people to live. And even an apartment for people to live, you have to be sensitive about the grills, because of the stairs and all. So this was not put into consideration. So when are we looking at our children as we plan? Do you have them in mind, or do you only see the aspect of growth? Like we have a good-looking school, but do we consider who are the occupants of those classes? Because I'm sure if it's like that, even the classes are very squeezed.
Sure.
So they must be having a problem of air.
Yeah, maybe ventilation.
The ventilation. How is the ventilation? Remember our days, the school, the windows were so big, you'd never doze in class.
Yeah. It was so, it was almost...
It was like it's open.
Yeah, open.
Yes.
No walls on the side of the window.
Yes.
Now, having said that, I would like us to draw to a conclusion.
Yes.
But then, drawing to a conclusion, I would like us to look at the, psychological aspect of this. Of course, many parents are going to be affected, affected at this time, and not just the parents, but the community also is really suffering, and the children. What would be your suggestion, especially for this specific tragedy? We saw kids who survived the ordeal.
Yes.
But then they were in deep shock.
Yes. It's unfortunate, but we really need a lot of therapy, not just counseling, but the therapy, whereby you work with the students, the ones who have survived. Just listen to them so they're able to express the trauma. I'm sure some will start having nightmares, because when it starts replaying in the mind, there'll be incidences of the nightmares and the night screams. So that is something that really needs to be given quite a bit of attention by people who understand what trauma is. You know, I can be a therapist, but I don't understand what trauma is. They need somebody who understands what trauma is, and then the magnitude, with an understanding that every person reacts differently to trauma. There's somebody who gets excited, another one the system shuts, another one that gets into depression. All these things will happen. The psychological effect is major. So the students who are present, those who missed out, those who are part of the stampede and they have survived, those who are recuperating in hospital, they have come out, those two need a lot of therapy, the parents and the teachers at large, and the entire community. It's a lot of therapy is needed. I don't know how the ministry is planning to handle it, but I pray they don't handle it casually. For the children who will not be comfortable with the school, I pray the parents accept them to move. Their children who will never be able to be in that school again, ever. The picture is
maybe
traumatic.
Maybe a kid lost their best friend.
Yes, or a sibling.
Or a sibling.
Yes, they will not be able to go back to that school. However, I know the professor said they should go to school today, but let's get a bit more practical. When it comes to the ground, it's a bit different. It is hard to wake up. I saw my friend die yesterday. Then I wake up and go to the same school. No.
Yeah, he was asked that on the interview, and he actually did mention, because the journalist raised the issue that the school can be considered as a crime scene, you know, for investigations to be done and forensics to be run. But I mean, we wait and see what transpires out of this. But then, once again, you know, Kenya has been called to look at there's an awakening, or the conversation about how safe, you know, our schools for our children are.
Yes. And
this is a conversation that I don't think that we should always be waiting for tragedies to happen for us to have. I think this is a conversation that we should be having constantly. Has this been fixed? Has that been fixed?
Yes.
What can be done to change this? If this is the case, what do we do? Do we completely cover the area with grills, you know, just to allow air to come in, but to make sure that should there be anything, then there's no way a child can go overboard and fall? Because, I mean, looking at the balconies, how they are open, if we had a grill, at least, as much as not everybody would want to have such an environment where it's a school, but then it's all you know, bar and everything. But then could have to some extent.
I think for us Kenyans, as you're saying, some of these things need to be repeated many times because we seem to forget quickly. The precious, the the school at Gong is not even
the precious talent.
The precious talent. It's just a few days back, and we've already forgotten, and now here we are again. I think these matters we need to keep being reminded, because we seem to be forgetting easily the small things that count. It's the small things that count, not the big things, the small things that count. But for this one, the psychological trauma is major. Is major. Yes, if the people are not spoken to properly and addressed to, it will cost them a lot of harm. I pray the ministry does something about it. If they are not, the people on board, I mean, there are always all these people who can assist, the church can assist. And it's addressed nicely.
I think even other ministries can also chip in to that. I mean, we have the public health, the ministry in charge of health.
Yes.
They
can also help.
This,
True. But then back to parents. I'm really calling back to the parents. Parents, we are not serious. Me being one of them. We parents, we have really lost it when it comes to our children. I don't know how much we love our children. We only want to talk about our children. But love is not what I say. Love is what I do. And it is in those small things. We are really not careful. We've it's not a serious business anymore. We've become a bit irresponsible. We are busy looking for money to feed the children, but we are not there to love these children. The children feel so good when they know our parents come to check our school. You don't always have to wait for the children to come and tell you the school had no water. or it's until they have running stomach and they are having an outbreak of some stomach infection. That's when you all ask what happened, and then you are told we've not had safe drinking water for a whole week. I mean, how does it go to a whole week and we don't know?
We don't know.
How?
As parents.
What happened? Haven't we noticed our children, or haven't we had our children complain, hakuna maji shule, so they are scrambling for bottles to look for water to drink. But then again, do we even know what water they drink?
Sure.
So we as parents are failing. The government is trying as much as they can do, but they can only do a certain portion, which is quite small. It is back to us. What is our role? We should be helping them. You see, like when it was the community policing. The security begins with us.
Yes.
If I'm living with somebody who is weird, it is me who is supposed to report to the police. The police cannot come and check everybody. They will not know. So we as parents, we are not doing much.
We should do more.
We need to rise up.
Your parting shot, Rachel, as we finish?
Parting shot, I'm so sad about it. Pole for all the parents and the students. May God give you peace, because it's only God who gives peace. May God give you hope. And we only pray that you come to terms with the reality and accept what we can't change. But what needs to be changed, let's give it some attention. Parents, let's be more hands-on parents. Let's not be just words parents. Let's be more action-oriented and hands-on. It will help our community tomorrow.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Rachel Gitu. Viewer, as you heard for yourself, I mean, it's quite tragic. Heartfelt condolences to the families of the 14 children who lost their lives, and those who are injured, and those who are still in hospital in critical condition. We do hope we do wish them speedy recovery. But also to our parents out there, let's be concerned. Let's think about the environment where our children go to learn, and it's our responsibility. Just walk to the school, share your ideas, think about, I mean, talk about what you feel. I mean, if it's something that can be changed, then it will be changed. I mean, what happened to the school boards where parents were members of the same and they had a say on the construction and the water and the food and, you know, the playground and the fences of, you know, and the trips that the children take while in school. All these are things that we as a society needs to think about. And these, according to the conversation that we had today, are conversations that we should have constantly, not just wait until we have another Kakamega primary or we have another Precious Talent tragedy, so that, you know, the nation can come out and try to point a blaming finger. Right now, we shouldn't do that. As a country, as a society, we need to pull together, deal with the matter at hand, but then remind ourselves that these are things that we need to discuss constantly and continuously. Well, breaking news also that is continuing to develop at this moment: the passing of the former President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, who is the second president of Kenya. He ruled for about 24 years, and he is someone who has been around for a while, lived longer, and he has been in and out of hospital, partly due to the age, but then he was indeed very strong physically, and I think I'll give him credit for that, and Kenyans will also agree with me that the old man lived, you know, to a ripe age. Our heartfelt condolences also to the family of the former president, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. We are expecting that State House or the president will issue a comprehensive statement on the passing of the former president. For now, we call it wraps here, and we really appreciate you joining us. Let's keep the conversation going on our hashtag GBS Morning Extra. Our Twitter handle is @KenyaGBS. SMS line is 21144. Let's hear your comments, your views. For now, I do pave way for my colleague Kevin Nyariki, who is coming up next with the Morning Extra Sports. For me, it's bye-bye for now, and see you again tomorrow, God willing.